All right, everyone good? Set? All right, welcome everybody, and welcome to another edition of Everyone's a Critic. We usually do this panel both at WonderCon and at San Diego Comic-Con, but unfortunately there was a plague this year, so we're all safely social distancing at home, and everyone has been kind enough to Zoom in this evening, and so we can kind of talk with all you guys and talk, because heavens, everything around being a journalist of any kind right now, and critics especially, things are a little bit different than normal. I can't remember what month it was. It seems like years ago, the last time I was at a screening. But let's go through, introduce everybody, what current outlets you're writing for and might be known best for. And we'll kind of go down the line. Alexander August.
Hi there. My name is, as Bill mentioned correctly, Alexandra August. I predominantly wrote for CBR and Screen Rant, also Fandom, and occasionally here and there for StarTrek.com. Currently, I work for Skybound. I'm their head of audio and developing a podcast department for them. So not quite in the journalism space anymore, but definitely still smack dab in the genre space.
Very cool. Alan.
Yeah, I'm Alan Ng. I'm a managing editor at filmthreat.com, Filmthreat. And yeah, we focus mostly on independent films.
Cool. Thomas.
Hi, I'm Thomas Parham. I'm executive director of screenwriting at Azusa Pacific University. And I am managing editor of Flick 66 Podcast, a bi-weekly podcast when school's in session that covers television and media. And I also have a book that came out last summer, Hailing Frequencies Open Communication on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Awesome. Marianne.
Marianne Butler, editor-in-chief for Aggressive Comics, used to be news editor at Bleeding Cool.
Cool. Bob.
I'm Bob Shipman. I'm a independent film critic, YouTube video producer, currently weekly film critic and video producer for Big Picture and Escape to the Movies on The Escapist, and host of Really That Good on YouTube and the Movie Bob channel.
Awesome. And my name again is Bill Waters, and I write occasionally for Screen Rant and for Syfy Wire, also Aggressive Comics from time to time, and used to be part of the Bleeding Cool crew as well. So let's kind of get in. How have your worlds changed in the last few months? I mean, now things are kind of changed up, both from the publicist side, our relationships that we have with the studios. What's it kind of changed for you guys?
I think for us, we probably had the easiest transition because we do independent films. They're coming out of the woodworks right now, and they're coming by us. And we're this week we did just for a non-festival period of time, a record amount of reviews. We're doing maybe 6 reviews a day this week. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of great independent film out there, and people, and they need eyes.
Right. Do you find that to be as a effect of what's happening with the film festivals right now, or just they see an opportunity to kind of independent films to kind of get a voice right now where they would usually be in the midst of Black Widow and everything else coming out and kind of getting lost in the shuffle?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely being, they're coming to the forefront. I mean, because all the big studio stuff, except for Trolls, is being put on the shelf. And, Amazon has just put out maybe 39 South by Southwest films that you can go there. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it. And we reviewed at least half of those, not going there this year. We still had access to a lot of those films.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I almost feel like bad having any kind of like work-related complaints because my work schedule has not actually changed.
Right.
Rather my deadline schedule has not actually changed because I worked from home in general. So like I'm still sending things in and updating and whatnot. I'm not getting the screenings obviously because there are none. I'm in Boston, we're on lockdown. The theaters aren't doing anything. Nothing's releasing. So I'm kind of scrounging for, and since my outlet mainly ran new release stuff, have been trying to figure out what to run. I think that's probably the only reason why I got what is what tries to be like a major release platform for the reviews to put up a review of Butt Boy, which I'm very thankful that I got to do because it was awesome.
So are we.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I think what the main thing that's changed is realize it's like, wow, the pathetic excuse for a social life that I did have actually was like holding together the workflow otherwise, because it's, wow, I am actually much less productive when I have like even less of a set sleep schedule and don't have like a thing slightly regimenting my life a little bit, which is interesting to learn. So that's happening.
Marianne, how are things going on your side with Aggressive?
I hate to say business as usual, but it's pretty much business as usual. The only difference is no screenings, as everyone else mentioned, no conventions, which are primarily where I make my contacts, where I do most of my interviews, things like that. So without those on my schedule, it's been very strange. It's been very quiet and strange.
Thomas, how are things with you and your students?
It's been interesting. This semester, just by the luck of the draw, I had 2 online graduate courses, and then my undergraduate courses are small enough that the 2 courses where I do meet with students, they're either one-on-ones or 3-on-1s. So a lot of them have been kind of freaking out because after the university had to go through several undulations, do we let the students stay on campus and just keep them in the dorms, or no, we're going to make them move out in 10 days, so it's been crazy, but most of them have managed to handle it with a lot of grace. And some of my graduating writing students have written some really terrific pilots, so that's been fun.
Alexandra, you've mentioned that you're moved into the prepping on the podcasting space. Has anything really changed over in that world? Either people being more engaged and moving into that space more so and trying to, if they were employed before, now they're trying to find other venues, or anything else going on?
I can speak to it more from a sense of monitoring downloads and uploads. Uploads are going up, downloads are going down because people aren't commuting anymore, and that is a huge, huge, huge.
I think she's gone.
It was you. Wait, she's back.
Wait,
How huge was it?
how huge?
Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, I can. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
I have a.
No problem.
Should I just start kind of?
Yeah, go ahead and
over,
pick it from the top. Yeah.
All right. I can speak to that more from a, I don't know about jobs per se. I can tell you that I doubt a lot of podcast producers who are employed are losing their jobs, because you can still make podcasts remotely very easily.
Right.
My workload has increased. The pitches I've been getting, the submissions I've been getting have increased. That is partially because I am a much more productive person at other people's homes than I am in my home or at my office, it seems. I am getting way more done. So, but more people are producing podcasts because they have the time. So Spotify just announced that they had an uptick in podcasts that people were uploading to their platform via Megaphone and other platforms, other hosting platforms. Downloads are decreasing though, because nobody's commuting. Like the commuting has drastically reduced, and commuting is such a huge part of when people actually listen to podcasts, because it's not really something that you do with your family. It's usually something that is singular, that you do by yourself, and it's something that you can do while you pay attention to something else. You can split your attention and listen to a podcast. It's harder kind of to do with really engrossing television or film or something like that. So it's I think we'll see the content increase and downloads decrease and continue. So I don't know that the industry is going to change that much. It's going to get more saturated, and I would not expect a lot of these new podcasts that you're seeing to continue much after work resumes.
Got it. On the, so we mentioned a number of times here what it's like that, now that, the screenings have kind of thinned out, and other than kind of solicits for, indie films, what do we think is going to happen once theaters start to reopen again? Are audiences going to return? It seems like very much a chicken and egg. The studios don't want to release films into theaters until there's an audience. The audience isn't going to return until they feel better about things. And also there's something to go see.
There was an interesting article in Variety earlier this week. They interviewed the president of NATO, National Association of Theater Owners, and he basically said, one, the theaters in the states that have reopened or that could reopen aren't yet, which is fascinating. And two, when they do, they're going to be playing repertory films because the studios aren't going to put a major release. Hey, there's like 13 states that have theaters open. They're not going to waste their time. So what's expected to be the big splash events are Mulan, which Disney moved from March, and also Tenet. Warner Brothers has been very cagey. They just said, they never said anything about moving Tenet. They're just like, we're planning to release Tenet on time.
Yep.
So NATO, the NATO chief, and pretty much everybody's counting on a majority of theaters in the nation being reopened by mid-July-ish, with the caveat that they're going to maintain social distancing, they're going to greatly reduce capacity. So I've heard as little as 25%, which means that they're going to start showing, they got to make their money. So we're going to have theaters show, 4 times as many theaters showing Tenet so we can get our money back. And what's going to happen is these indie films are going to get crowded out because the theaters want that money, and they also want that concessions money. They also plan to stagger showtime so everybody's not converging on the theater at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I think that when theaters do reopen in July, it's going to be a substantially different experience because there won't be anybody, 6 feet within you in the auditorium.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I think if the beaches over the last weekend is any indication, people are desperate to get out of the house and go somewhere. And I would imagine the theaters are gonna do well, even though they're gonna limit the number of screenings and the number of seats they can sell.
Yeah, I would like to be optimistic about people's ability to do the right thing and like behave safely in a plague at least, but they won't. And I, like, from the beginning of this, I've said the minute they keep talking about, oh, we're going to stagger the reopening of this, it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You can say that you are, and maybe certain businesses just won't open or not. But once things are open, things are going to be open because you're not going to be able to stop people from showing up. Mm-hmm. And, that they'll only keep in theaters, and they'll only keep a certain amount of seats open or whatnot. But whatever they allow people to sit in, they will sit in. Whatever version of sold out is, everything will be sold out. It will, whatever seat they can sell, they will sell, and there will be lines, and it will be people are going to be aching to go to concerts, movie theaters, beaches, clubs, whatever version of full is, it's going to be full. Right. And like, I think it's just going to be the way that it is. People are going to go just to go. Mm-hmm. And
I think it's And I was talking to a friend earlier today, and as much as I am community minded and want to partake in sort of the herd mentality of like, if we can just chill out for long enough, we can get this under some degree of control so that we can create some infrastructure so when it rises up again, it's not going to be worse. I don't know. I'm very lucky. I still have a job, and I'm staying with family right now because I didn't want to stay in my tiny apartment in Venice Beach because the beach is closed, first of all, and I mean, not really, but still, and it's small, and I have my family was generous enough to let me come and stay in a very nice, like very close to nature, chill place. I'm unique. Not everybody has those opportunities. They're gonna lose their damn minds. I'm not. I mean, as much as I hate to, there's no controlling that. In terms of people just getting stuck inside a place, and I as much as that frustrates me, I can't really be angry at them.
Yeah, no, it's like this business with the people with the guns in Michigan is a whole other thing, but like there's a tipping point that's gonna get there, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And I think that in terms of like the releases, I'll tell you one long-term thing. Like right now, we're dealing with like summer when there's only like one big movie coming out a week anyway. When we hit like November, whatnot, like all of this business with AMC and Regal and Universal and stuff, this isn't about the big stuff coming out in the summer. Like this fight with them, like, yeah, I'm really sure AMC isn't going to run the Fast and the Furious. Please. No, that's not what it is. What they're worried about is when it gets into that November crunch period, when all of the mid-budget grown-up movies that get the 2 screens come out that are maybe going to get like their Best Supporting Actor nomination, and that's the only reason it exists. All of those movies are going to go, okay, it's in theaters, but it's also on VOD because this was supposed to come out 4 months ago and everything was closed, so this has to make money. So those are going to go VOD and theaters together. The change that was going to happen over the next 5 years is going to happen over the next 2 months.
Right.
Because now it has to. The hand has been forced. In my opinion, that's the next step.
My biggest concern with the theaters reopening at all, which I do hope they do, because there's nothing like seeing a film on opening day with people, you know? But that said, some of the worst interactions I have had with humans have been in movie theaters when they would not stop talking, when they would not stop being on their phone at full volume during a film, when they have not stopped kicking my chair, having their children run up and down aisles. You're telling me those people who can't follow rules for an hour and a half are going to be able to follow rules to have these things reopened? Like that's my concern.
There is a degree of like my aunt went to get her hair done at a salon, like at her like kind of needed kind of an underground hair treatment, so she did it, and then the next day her
back market hair salons on the next Oprah.
I know, it's so dumb. But then the next I think she contacted her stylist, I think this month, to get something else done, and was fully risking her own health to do it, which is her business. But there were cops that showed up to that salon and showed up to that mini mall. So this is going to be enforced. Like it's not that it hasn't been enforced. So I think that like I don't know that, I mean, people are in movie theaters. I'm not surprised if they just put tape over those seats. That's going to be, I'm sure that's going to be, people are going to rip it off and try to sit where they want to sit or what have you. But I think there's some degree of enforcement that's going to happen with this, at least in California.
Yeah.
I would love to believe that, but the people I see every single day, like when I go out with my full head covering, face covering, gloves, the whole works to go grocery shopping every 2 weeks, there are people running and jogging with no masks. There are groups of like 8 people walking arm in arm on the sidewalk with no masks. Those are the people I'm concerned about that are, they can't be that dumb. Sorry, members of your audience, maybe. Right, we all need our little placards with the thing on it. But seriously, like I have no faith in those people at all. And I see too many of them.
I have faith in bouncers. I have a feel like that's kind of interesting to me, is that like I think we're like there's a lot of like they're just like supermarkets are going to need bouncers, like movie theaters are going to need bouncers, and like there are plenty of those people. It'll be interesting to see how Mab, we should go to a movie, what I'm saying, soon.
Well, fortunately there'll be a smaller mob in the theater to have to control as opposed to 100, 200 people.
Be all those people. Like that's what it's either going to be, good people in the theater, or it's going to be me with all of those
those people all around. I just actually did a screening that was hosted by the Roxy a couple of days ago that was for an indie film that had premiered at Sundance, and it was called Ask No Questions, and it was done over big screen VR. And so it was, everyone had their headsets on, and we showed up, and it was just like the pre-screening mixer was there, and the director and the producer, we had a conversation beforehand. And then when the time came, everyone, you kind of like you de-resed and reappeared in a regular theater, and everyone's sitting in their respective chairs and kind of watching the movie. And it's very much that social, that social experience. I'm looking around, it's like, here's the other, people that were in the room. And then afterwards, we teleported again to kind of like a rooftop lounge for a Q&A with the director afterwards. And so it's kind of like, you know what, it worked. It's not, it was not perfect, and they need, kind of really a larger room capacity for that system to kind of make it more of a real group thing. Right now, it's good for a nice cluster of a dozen friends to watch a movie at a time. But still, I think kind of like Bob said, is like what was kind of evolving has suddenly gotten accelerated really fast.
Yeah.
And people are going to discover, new ways to do things. Conventions right now, they're very much trying to, make sure that everyone knows that they're still alive, they're still here, and they'll be back. But there's probably going to be some aspects that do end up going virtual, whether it's the pop culture genre or corporate events. So many corporations are discovering they can do their events all online. Great, that saves them, even in a non-plague time, travel costs, hotel venue costs, all this kind of thing. I think there's going to be a definite kind of change of that persists after the fact.
Well, that's good. I mean, great news for that. Great news for Marvel and Warner Brothers and Sony and everyone who can. They can do Hall H anywhere. They can do Hall H like this. We can do this like that.
The fact that SDCC hasn't sold virtual passes is astonishing. Just it's free money. I mean, sort of, kind of, but like whatever. But I'm sure there are reasons for that. But that surprises me.
Well,
sorry, Bob. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no. I agree. Believe me, as someone who, as much as I love seeing everyone, especially you guys in person and going out to San Diego, it would be much easier to cover that sort of thing from afar. The worry that I have, and I just did a whole episode about this, but is that the reason that the convention scene grew up in the first place is because of the vendors who make all of their, like, that's a lot of people's entire, like, most of their year's income. Absolutely. Is the fact that everyone in the world is coming to San Diego for one weekend, and they can just make this giant chunk of money all at once off because they happen to have a t-shirt booth there or something. And I mean, I don't know what those people do now if this doesn't come back to life next year.
One thing though is
my friend is makes 5 figures on those, and like he's had to like restructure his year financially because they're all. I mean, he's fine, but I mean, 5 figures in a weekend, and not just at SDCC. Like that's why. I mean, I don't know if this is actually, I don't know if this is true, but this is what they said. The reason they waited so long to cancel SDCC was because they wanted to wait the last possible minute because of how many people's livelihoods depend on that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, an entire city counts on it.
And
then,
but
then there's, I was just gonna say that there's the social element. I mean, we are social beings. We thrive on being with other people. I mean, you talked about conventions originally for the vendors, but also it was for us to meet fellow comic book fans, comic book geeks, to dress up, to find people who were like us. And I do kind of fear the day that technology takes over that, where we're all in our individual holodecks, meeting with one another and not having, physical contact is still physical contact. And I think as human beings, we kind of thrive on that. And we kind of, it keeps us alive in a way.
I mean, it can definitely be said, like San Diego talking about Hall H, that, I've been in there during times when presentations are going on for things that I'm not that big of a fan of. I like, but it's not that in. But when you're in a room with 6,000 people and the energy level is pumping and they're all completely jazzed, I mean, there's nothing else quite like that. And there's no, VR won't be able to recreate that in that same sort of electric fashion.
I mean, I'm not going to kick a holodeck out of bed, like a good one, one where you can like touch the holograms. I'm into it. And if this spurs on the virtual revolution in terms of like actual virtual reality, by all means. But I bummed about SDCC. Like real bummed because it's palpable joy. It is like the most innocent gathering of 130,000 people I've ever experienced. And most conventions, at least most not-for-profit conventions, I find to have that same just pure love of the game. People are happy to see the vendors. They are happy to see each other. They are happy to see the t-shirts and the cosplay, and it's crowded and it's like sometimes very uncomfortable, but it's just, it's fine. Like I'm fine with all that level of discomfort because it is just this festival of pure unadulterated joy. And that's, I'm just,
I feel like something's going to happen. I feel like something's going to happen in San Diego, whether it's an officially sanctioned event or something. I think, you want to believe that people are just going to gather together. It's
It'll be
July.
like a candlelight vigil.
Yeah. Or a zombie walk, at least.
Yeah.
No, they
If
can't.
they open the rest of
Not after that car accident with the deaf family.
Oh,
They
seriously.
cannot do that anymore.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
Going back
I
to-
didn't know about this.
Going back to something I think that Bill said earlier, I think one of the things that's really getting highlighted during this extended period of social distancing with theaters being shut down is our viewing patterns are completely changing.
Yeah.
And I taught television history last fall for the first time. And what was really interesting on the first day of class, I talked to the students, what is television? Is it the box? Well, that's a monitor. Is it the kind of show? Well, you can see it. You can get that kind of content on your phone, on your computer, on your smart or on your tablet thing. And the fact that we're starting to get theatrical films that were meant for theaters first to television, and we are consuming television in mass quantities. I think the networks are really going to have to strain to reinvent themselves or to lure viewers back, because Netflix gained 15 million viewers in Q1, and that's even before the bulk of social distancing happened.
Yeah.
So plus we've got Peacock did their soft launch for select Xfinity members earlier this month, and they'll do their full-on launch in July, and HBO Max goes live next month on the 27th. So we're going to have this glut of all these major streaming services, and the networks are kind of left. What do we got? We've got the latest reinvention of something that people didn't want to watch the first time around.
Parks and Rec is returning tonight.
Yay! I love Parks and Rec. Treat yourself.
well, if you think about it, though, well, the networks. So CBS has All Access. They've been running that for a long time. NBC has their thing. Disney, ABC has Disney Plus,
And Hulu.
And Fox is a part of that too.
Yeah.
Well, the Fox IP is part of that.
Right, but Hulu and Disney Plus are broadcasting a lot of Hulu is broadcasting the Fox stuff, along with the Disney stuff.
The more mature Fox stuff.
Yeah,
Some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hulu's becoming the touchstone for Disney's stuff.
Yeah.
By way
Hulu,
of
this still exists, and we don't know what to do with it yet.
pretty much.
Oh no, they know what to do with it.
I think it's also interesting that this is an occasion where we're getting a lot more content that's, because there's not a lot of new stuff being made right now, a lot of these streaming services are popping back open the vaults and go, what do we got that's international that we haven't broadcast in the States? And we're getting a lot more international series, international films coming across. And I think that's giving an opportunity that, again, we wouldn't necessarily have had at the same cadence that we're seeing now, in that, American viewers being exposed to a lot more, international stuff, also foreign language stuff, things that don't have, that aren't dubbed, they're just subbed. And they're still doing well.
Yeah. Well, and we're also finding out like the all of the stuff that used to be used to market to, I guess, like our demographic, like the stuff that only used to work in like the nerd demographic of, going back to, hey, 6 people remember this thing from like the Marvel archives. Now this works on like the general audience, like the obscurity, like Fuller House would not have happened 10 years ago, like pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe, going back and saying, you know what, let's do this. Like if that show didn't happen right after Full House, it wouldn't have happened. But now it's like, you know what, yeah, let's go back, because now this whole thing where nothing goes away anymore is now there. And I mean, like 2 weeks ago, I find out they're doing like Punky Brewster is now back.
Oh yeah.
And it's not like a remake.
Is it a reboot? Or is it?
No, it's the actress is back playing her as an adult and adopting a kid, and that's the new show, and it's the same, but whatever. And I mean, that show was only on for like 4 years or some such. And I looked at it, I said, okay, that's a thing. But I was like, you know what? As my lab experiment for just what do normal people think of this, I just sent it just randomly off to my sister-in-law, and she was like, I can't believe it, I'm so excited. Like, I was like, oh, okay, all right, wow, I guess this works. And now this is a thing.
I think it's interesting. Once upon a time when, you know, we all had cable and things like that, people were always very much complaining that, oh, I hate these, you know, these bundle packages where we spend $100 so we can get Stars and HBO and Showtime and whatnot. Wouldn't it be great if we could have them a la carte? Well, okay, now you've got it a la carte, and now you've got, you know, granted between $5 and $14 isn't much, but when you multiply it times 15 channels, it adds up really quickly, and that doesn't even count the regular stuff. And so it's an interesting, this is one that, you know, the consumers once upon a time were always saying that they wanted, now they have it, and now they're like, but
Now
wait.
they all want it.
But you don't need to have cable or satellite once you have all these streaming services.
This is true. You can, you know, I mean, cord cutting now is, you know, I pretty much, like for myself, I have Dish now just so I don't have to go back and resubscribe to all the channels as much as anything. But
I miss local news from cutting the cord. That's something that I have found it hard to get just in a way that I can flip it onto my television and use it, like have it in the background and pick up stuff. I will say, like, I still, in terms of cost, I cut the cord a while ago, and I'm still, I don't have Showtime, and I think I have HBO, Hulu, Netflix, don't pay for Disney Plus, will probably pay for Peacock. I'm still, that plus internet, I'm still paying less than I did for cable and getting so much more. So I feel like the opposite problem. I'm not, like, the money isn't the issue. It's the fact that, like, I just am overwhelmed with things to watch.
Right.
Like, I don't, it's too much. I mean, it's not too much. It's just I don't have the time and the brain space. And the thing, I have to listen to audio in order to keep up with my job. And you can't listen to audio and watch TV at the same time. You can't really listen to audio and read at the same time. So it's hard.
And for Cinephiles now, it's great. We've got Criterion channel,
Yes.
you know, with all of their stuff. And so you can just go deep diving down that rabbit hole, you know, not just the movies, but all of the additional content and everything that's part of those packages.
Yeah, I just got a Roku recently.
Oh yeah.
I got a Roku recently, and I can't believe how the depth of films they have on there. Of just, oh yeah, real crappy independence, and oh yeah.
Prime is a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Prime is bizarre because Prime doesn't. It has a terrible UI. I hope Amazon's not sponsoring this or anything, because Prime has a god awful UI unless you know exactly what you're looking for. But if you just have like a couple hours to kill and you just click, it's like, show me something else, show me something else, show me something else. It's like, I'm convinced Amazon sometimes buys stuff as a joke. Like Amazon will apparently just buy like shot in your backyard dog horror movies and just put them up on Prime. And you say, yeah, you know what? Let's just see if someone buys this kid, if someone wants to give us $2.99 to watch this kid's werewolf movie that he made with his brother.
You know, I just had a great
Lakeisha.
visual, something like, you know, you got Netflix and Hulu and the networks all going through, doing the upfronts and doing the nice purchase. And then you've got Amazon giving your description. It's kind of like the equivalent, you know, when you're going through that $5 bin at Best Buy on the way out the door. That's what they're after. Here, what do we got here? Can I get the rights for this?
Yeah.
Bikini car wash. It's there.
They made a second Zoolander? Wow.
No, I like it
It's
because
really
it's
good
like
going to sleep TV.
it's like you get the 10. God, I'm old. When I would work at Best Buy and they would put out I think Mill Creek would used to do like the DVDs where they would have like the 2 movies on there that were like you'd heard of, and the rest of them were like 100 movies on this DVD, and like 98 of them would be like public domain, like VHS transfers of like old Chuck Norris movies and stuff.
Right.
And then there'd be 2 or 3 things on there. Sometimes would be like really rare movies that people have been looking for. And I think that's how the Edison Frankenstein got out at one point, when someone just had randomly thrown it onto there. And it was, oh yeah, hey, that we didn't even know that was rare. Oops.
You know, the one thing that you mentioned about the Blockbuster days is, I mean, how many people found actually amazingly good movies by going through going, oh, the cover art on this box looks good. You know, the description, whatever, is kind of like, oh, this has got a great poster art on it. And so you grab it and take it home. And it was really one of 2 extremes. It was either brilliant, or you're sitting there going, can I get my money back? And do I really have to Be Kind Rewind?
It got me interested in a lot of that in the library. The library was always a really good source of films. Because I mean, it was free and nobody would argue with me when I was younger. Like I didn't have to like convince my mom to take me any place to get them. I could just go and get stuff. And I wasn't somebody who was trying to like watch extremely R-rated films or anything. I was just curious about new stuff, and that is how I got into foreign film.
Nice.
Was video rental and libraries, because if it looked confusing and I didn't really understand it, I was like, sure, let's check that. And like we bought a TV from Best Buy once, and we got a big like phone book of Roger Ebert reviews. So I would just flip through it, and then I would look up, like if I liked a movie, I would look up and try to find it someplace else. But I kind of like the fact that streaming services are rekindling, or not necessarily rekindling, but really stoking interest in foreign cinema and foreign television.
You know, I mean, again, I'll keep beating my chest around Money Heist. Still.
Yeah, my stepmom's watching that.
It's, you know, it's absolutely brilliant. And there's a documentary on Netflix now already kind of about it. And it was a failed series in Spain. It did okay. It did fairly well for season 1, season 2, whatever. And then Netflix found it. And they're just going about their little lives. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, you're now internationally famous. Good luck. And there's footage of them starting off the filming of season 3, and it was a madhouse, you know, because again the Netflix effect happened, and they were just completely surrounded. Like the opening shots were some of the ones in season 3 at the beginning in Italy, and camera crew shows up and they get out and there's a wall of people. And then of course the actor that plays the professor decides, I'll go say hi to my fans. So he walks right over to the crowd and just thunk, and they're all like, so how do we get him out before they like, you know, tear him to pieces because they all want souvenirs.
And they're all sick now.
We haven't had a good chance to, we actually haven't had a good chance to chat since last year, and bringing up independent film is great. The people having apoplectic fits about Parasite winning Best Picture last year.
Oh Lord!
Still, it's like, what? I mean, it's, and them deciding that this is going to be the fall of Western civilization as we know it. And you know, I just was really perplexed with how even some of, you know, fellow critics and stuff were absolutely incensed at this premise, and it just mystified me a bit why they were so upset.
How dare you care that much about an award ceremony that is a giant circle jerk to begin with? Like, it's, I mean, I like the Oscars. I watch them every single year, but first of all, there's no comparing one piece of art to another. It's apples and oranges. So the whole thing is predicated on a stupid idea. And it's about like, okay, whoever wins an Oscar gets to make more money off their film. And that's it. Like, the fact that people get so latched onto this stuff is just, I love it when foreign films, or when films get, like, that's exciting about it, when a film that wouldn't have gotten this much publicity or attention gets it. And that's, I mean, I can see why the dumb people are upset about it.
It's because they have to read. They didn't like it because they would have to read, and that didn't work for them.
Yep. It's just,
you know,
like,
what's interesting about Parasite winning, and you know, full disclosure, it wasn't I wanted JoJo to win. I thought Once Upon a Time was going to win, but when Parasite won, I'm like, that's interesting. But what's fascinating to me is those filmmakers were onto something, because this class warfare thing, boy, what have we seen since the Corona went down?
Yeah, I'll say this, you know, of the Asian countries, I mean, I see them all: Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Indian. I've always found that Korean movies were the most American. You know, when I watch a Korean movie, it feels like I'm watching an American movie, especially their crime dramas, their procedurals. It's like, well, this might as well be, and Parasite is the same way. It's a story, even though you have to read it, it's a story you can relate to. And it's a story you've certainly seen in your lifetime at some point, if you're a big movie fan.
Yeah, 10 years ago, Parasite would have barely opened in the U.S., but it would have been remade, and it would have made like $500 million.
Well,
yeah.
HBO's
It's also
the miniseries.
Yeah.
With
the acting in particular, I found, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It felt to a degree pretty westernized. And I don't know if that's just my reaction to it, and maybe I'm just like not exposed to this culture enough to recognize, like, I don't know, there's no westernized acting. There's just somewhat universal global acting standards, I guess, or just sort of a style. But I feel like I found that in a lot of the Korean cinema that I've watched as well, is that just the emotion, or the way actors emote is it's pretty similar. It's pretty similar to what I see in America, or at least, or like maybe what I see in like more indie European films. Those seem like more closely related. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Chinese, and when I see Chinese actors emote, it's cringeworthy.
Extreme? Is it more extreme? Like my impression of it's like kind of.
It's uber extreme. It's over the top extreme.
Heightened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we would call it, towards melodrama kind of a thing, but it's just how the performance style is for them. I think it's interesting because you're talking about it being similar to American, and I think back, the other main Korean movie that comes to my mind because I'm a horror fan is Train to Busan, and that was, again, fabulous movie, and I wonder if that was getting more play, if people would be as upset with that one as well, or I have to wonder, a lot of people that didn't like Parasite just didn't get it. It just didn't really, granted, it's anything but subtle, but maybe for some folks it is, and they didn't really get the play that was going on, between the class structure and the struggles and all of that.
There's like no hero in Parasite, or if there is, it's just kind of like it's tough to figure out who you root for. Yeah. In a sense.
Yeah. This was one of the few years that, during the Oscars when it had Best Picture, there were a good number on there that, I had my personal favorites, but, if any of this cluster of them won, yeah, I'm good. I can totally see it going that way. And it was nice to have one that it really didn't have entries on there that simply said, oh, the studio tried to buy this one. It's like, no, this is a pretty good, legitimate set. I think I would have only really been annoyed if The Irishman had won, but, that's me.
And it was no Green Book.
Yes.
It's I think knowing about I used to work at a very funny restaurant called the Soho House, which made sure that it was a very exclusive home, a membership club that specifically catered toward, in Los Angeles, its Los Angeles location, to film and television, made itself extremely exclusive and very much catered towards, and it opened during awards season in 2010. So we had a screening room, and we were home to a lot of awards screenings. So once awards season started, our screening room got really busy because people would screen their films for Academy members or for the Hollywood Foreign Press if it was Golden Globes. So I've seen how these campaigns are run, and the more money you have, the more likely your film is to get nominated, the more likely your film is to win, because you have the money to host a screening at the Soho House and pay for an open bar afterwards. There's a reason when an indie film gets nominated for Best Picture, it's kind of a big deal, because in terms of campaigning, sorry, pardon my language, children who are watching this, when you campaign, it costs money. Oh God, Bob, I'm sorry.
Other Bob.
Sorry, Marianne.
No. Bob curses all the time. Like, it's fine. I'm making a joke because Bob's face was just really, really funny, and that's why I'm like,
Bob and I are gonna get along. Yeah, it costs a lot of money to campaign, and so for me, watching Parasite win was just like, yeah. I mean, I know Brad Pitt was a part of that movie, but still, it's nice to see underdogs get up there because it's hard.
Well, especially like the heartfelt wins. It's like I forget the showrunner actress's name for Fleabag, right? When she was doing her win, it's like just heartfelt joy of like, oh my God, I didn't know I'd win this, yay! And whether it was Parasite or her and stuff, and just I love seeing that as opposed to the ones going, yeah, I know I'd win. I'm like, that's just so annoying.
I think a lot of
the 10th time she won, it kind of got that way. So.
The frustration on Parasite, I think, was coming from several different places. I loved that Parasite won. Yeah. And part of the reason that I loved it was because I didn't see it coming. Like, I had no inkling. And my critics group here in Boston gave Parasite like everything that year. But I had no idea Parasite was going to win. And I think a lot of people didn't. And I think in a lot of ways that pissed people off more. That they didn't see. I think that a lot of people had a lot of writing to do that they didn't expect that they had to do. And I think that because, not to cast aspersions on the rest of my profession or anything, I have a feeling that because it was the foreign language one that people figured wasn't going to win, I have a feeling a lot of film press just didn't watch it.
I would not be surprised at that at all.
I think a lot of the American population didn't watch it.
Yeah. Weird. Parasite made a decent amount of money before even the Academy Awards for a movie with that kind of release, made a decent amount of money.
And it had a lot of buzz.
Yeah, and
I think it was a legit win too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
you can't fault the acting, you can't fault the production, you can't fault the
It is
story.
light, tight, like
and compared to Shape of Water, I'm seeing Parasite than I would, Shape of Water basically.
I think it was probably, given what you guys are saying, I also think it was probably a more honest win because critics going in, or members of the Academy were like, it's not going to win, but I like this one, so I'll vote for it. And so they did, not thinking it would all add up, but they all kind of thought that way. And to me, that seems a bit more genuine.
Well, I think it was probably as most of the Best Picture wins now are, because of the way that they vote now, it was probably a preferential ballot win because they have the 10 nominees now. And so what now tends to happen, because it's ranked choice voting, is it's not the movie that's everyone's favorite that wins.
It's not one, but it's two.
Right, I get you. Yeah.
It's everyone has, like, everyone's number one movie is different, but ends up being the one that is everyone's second or third movie. Yep. So when it comes out there, it's like they all disagree about number one, because some people love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but some people hate Quentin Tarantino, so it's right down the bottom just to say fuck Quentin. But
I thought Once Upon a...
I'm sorry?
I don't know. I thought Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was going to win because way back when Crash won, I was like, guys, that's an LA movie. This is an LA industry. They the only reason I watched Entourage for every season of Entourage was because I was like, they're in Earth Cafe again. I've been there. It's fun. And kind of the same for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It didn't.
I had, if I made cash bets still on the Oscars, I would have put a substantial amount of money on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that just this year, because it felt like Quentin was due.
Yep.
Spike Lee won last year. Spike Lee, who previously wouldn't have been allowed in the building at one point in his career, won the Academy Award last year. Eventually, they were going to give Quentin an award, one of these, a Best Picture or something, I thought. And he finally makes one that's one of his history revenge movies. Right. And it's the history revenge movie where, hey, what if the golden age of Hollywood didn't end and one of you guys, exactly like these retired actors who got phased out at the end of there, killed the Mansons and saved the day and everything went the other way? Wouldn't that be good? He's writing a love letter to his dads, it's like, and instead they went another way. I'm glad, as much as I also liked that movie, but it shocked me. And I was also shocked later on when members of my own family who generally never watch foreign movies, where later on saying, it's like, hey, that Parasite, that was a pretty good movie. Yeah. I don't usually read movies, but that was a pretty good movie.
And that goes back to Alexander's point about it's great that that foreign films are coming more into the limelight, both from the streaming services, from wins like Parasite, and because people, if nothing else, they want to be angry about it, and a lot of them will actually go check it out. They get halfway through it and they forget to be angry, and they just kind of get lost into the film.
Mm-hmm.
The most apostate thing I can say in film criticism, but that I firmly believe, is that if Americans were slightly less snobbish about dubbing, movies like Parasite would make hundreds of millions of dollars, because almost every other country on the planet just dubs everything into the native language as well as releasing it subtitled. Mm-hmm. And that's why American movies make money overseas. Mm-hmm. Like France dubs American movies into French.
I learned the hard way. The first time I watched Run Lola Run, I watched it dubbed, and I hated the actors so much who did the dub that I swore, no, I've got to watch the subtitles, because I love that film and I show it to my film history classes when I teach it. But man, we just have to get over ourselves.
Yeah.
It is a global industry, and we have to accept that everything doesn't cater to our English language whims. So do a little work, but the reward will be rich, because you will introduce yourself to a world of great films.
Yeah, I will rarely choose dubbing in my foreign films.
Well, I watch dubs, but I think it would get people into the theater.
Yeah.
I'm with that too. I remember watching, I got so excited to show someone The Heroic Trio. Because my cousin got that for me when I was like maybe 11 or 12 and wasn't really super exposed to any foreign films, certainly not like this level of Chinese cinema. And she sent it to me on VHS, and I was like, they just killed a baby. What? Spoiler alert. And that was subtitled, and I like years later, I think it was on Netflix or something, and I was like, you guys, we have to watch this. And it was dubbed, and it just wasn't like, it wasn't as I don't know, it wasn't as uncomfortable and weird. It wasn't as strange. But I agree with you. I agree with you, Bob. Like, there are people who just, I think there are way more people in America who are like, just don't want to deal with reading on screen, that aren't looking for films as a route for exploration. They're looking for entertainment and ease of brain, which I understand and fully support. That'd be cool.
I mean, it is a visual thing too. I mean, it does. I mean, I won't disagree that your visual composition and the eye line is a thing. Like, I mean, I read very fast. Not everyone does, but like it is a thing.
I will say I did see a or a subtitled movie that was basically white letters on a white background.
What?
And it just drove me insane.
I've seen those before. Like, guys.
Though I have started being entertained by watching some of the international Netflix stuff with both dubbed language and subtitled when they're completely different anyway. They're both in English, but what's the subtitle and what the dialogue is can be radically different. And it's like, this is kind of fun.
I mean, dubbing, they do have to match, they do match mouth movements in dubbing. And so dialogue does change. Yeah. At the same time, you know, sometimes the written dialogue is not that great either.
Oh yeah, totally. It gets a first pass. It's pretty.
They should make it like come out of their mouths and into like a little balloon.
Very Monty Python-esque on the ribbons.
I didn't know that that the platform was not originally in English for 40 minutes of that movie.
Oh really? Yeah.
It's not very good.
I found it interesting, though. I did find it interesting.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I've been talking to a lot. I've been trying to figure out ways to make audio fiction that's more compelling and a little bit more immersive. And the problem with audio fiction is that I like fiction and film and television because I want to leave. I want to leave whatever's here and I want to go someplace else. And so that's why I love a theatrical experience. You're immersed and I don't think about anything else what's on that screen, and it's great. When you're listening to audio fiction, your eyes assault your suspension of disbelief constantly. You are, especially if you are driving, pay attention when you're driving. And so you have to find ways to fight that. And with dubbing, it's kind of the same thing. My eyes are like, that's not the voice of the person who is actually doing that talking, and it takes me out for some reason. And I think that's just like person to person. So subtitles are a little bit easier because I'm like, okay, this is just something that somebody put here. Okay, I know that's helpful, and I read that. All right, but everything else is transportative.
After a lifetime of martial arts movies, I'm just used to it.
You know what's going to fix this is the deepfakes technology. Is like, this is one of those things that like in 2 years is like they're going to merge those two things together, and like we are so on the cusp of not even knowing when a movie is real or animated or not, and like we don't even know. Like this, I don't get scared by technology because I just don't, because like I'm not one of these people that like sees like, oh, the Boston Dynamics robot, I want one. I'm not afraid of it. It's not the Terminator. It's not going to hurt me. 15 years ago, because I know people in animation, someone showed me the wire work, basically like the skeleton of what is now the deepfakes algorithm, basically, and said, no, this is how this is going to work, and just like the polygon version of how that was supposed to work, and just described to me how it would get the photos and map the faces and whatnot, and just knowing how that would work in there. That was the only time something technological ever just made the hair on the back of my neck stand up, like understanding what it would be capable of. And I just kind of went, oh no, that shouldn't exist.
And now it's open source freeware.
Yeah, and
Right.
seeing it already, I thought, oh God, no, in 30 years, like you're going to be able to make an exact person out of anything and no one's going to trust video again.
Well, even look at how far the skin jobs have come along over the past half decade or so. That deceased ever since Gladiator, probably before that as well. You got deceased actors that they needed to finish out a scene or they wanted to bring back for a sequel. Grand Moff Tarkin, and here they are again. And each time they get a little bit better, and they get a little bit better. And they're still not perfect, but it's kind of like you said, it's getting close.
The name it doesn't always
pretty perfect.
Millions.
You guys remember?
Millions of people think they saw Lena Headey topless on Game of Thrones.
Oh, the walk of shame.
And
do you guys remember The Sopranos when they did that with Livia?
Yes, that was rough. That was rough.
Yeah, and times when it has not worked.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was one of the first times they had to do that.
Totally, yeah.
And look at that.
They have to do it.
Look at that compared to Carrie Fisher's performance in episode 9.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a long way.
If you look, actually speaking to the, what things are being done on YouTube now, there's the fan done revision for Justice League, right? With the mustache, and they've and that fans with their home computers have made it work far better than the studio could do with all of their money. That goes to what kind of power is in the hands of the people at this point, if they've a little bit of technological awareness. So we're coming up. Actually, it's been a fun hour. It's been a blast. It's always, time flies with all of you good folks. Why don't we go around and talk about what's something really good that you've seen lately that you would recommend people to check out, and what are you looking forward to, whether it's something coming up on streaming or once the theaters come back into play. We'll go around the Bob.
Well, I already mentioned it, but indie movie. I can't stop talking about it, but please believe me, there's an indie movie on video on demand. It's called Butt Boy. It both is and isn't exactly what it sounds like, and it is just genius. And it's like if Tim and Eric made True Detective, and it's remarkable and just terrific. It's weird cinema, exactly what it should be, and it's great. I'm not just saying it to get you to watch something called Boy as like a joke. It's a joke, but it's the best kind of joke, because even if it wasn't funny, it would still be good. Like if you saw and really liked Dave Made a Maze 2 years ago, similar sense of humor. Similar, not exactly. It is called Butt Boy, but similar.
Alan.
Yeah. On the same vein, there were two. One's a teen girl drama that I really like called Banana Split, but the one I really like was Corona Zombies. This one it was literally made probably literally 2 weeks ago, and it's so contemporary in terms of where we're at with this virus and the zombie outbreak that occurred because of it. And the filmmakers, essentially, they took two movies, spliced them together, and then redubbed the entire dialogue of the two movies, kind of like What's Up, Tiger Lily. And what I love about it is it was actually really funny. I mean, the dialogue was I mean, I was laughing, and it is probably up there with a above average episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000. So if you have a chance, go see Corona Zombies. You'll love it. And again, it's so contemporary. It was probably finished maybe 2 weeks ago, and so it still has a lot of contemporary references.
Where can it be found?
Oh, it's Full Moon Features.
Okay.
You can
Charlie Band's company.
Yeah, Charlie Band's company.
Okay. Tom.
I have my three favorite binges of late: Devs on FX, limited series written and directed by Alex Garland, who made Ex Machina and Annihilation. I think would play better at 6 episodes instead of 8. So they spent a little bit of time setting it up, but the last 3 episodes are mind-blowing. Next up, one of my students, Aaron Linneman, got me to do a mini binge of Star Wars: The Clone Wars before the final arc. And Dave Filoni and his team have managed to pretty much redeem the prequel trilogy, not by undoing anything Lucas did, but by giving it the emotional heft it deserved. And I was impressed. The animation's amazing. And the way the last 4 episodes actually run concurrently with episode 3. And then finally, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist on NBC has been an utter joy. And episode 11, which just aired, has this amazing scene with Mary Steenburgen and Bernadette Peters, 2 actors I've adored since I was a kid. And 2 women, award-winning actors who have allowed themselves to age gracefully and sit around and talk about real life issues on a usually youth-obsessed television network. So it's, I call it touched by melody. The lead has the ability to hear other people's thoughts in the forms of songs. But just well done, well acted, well cast. I love it.
Nice.
Alexandra.
I have not been super connected to the upcoming film scene, but I am really, really excited for In the Heights, just because I love Lin-Manuel Miranda, and Arnold. I still enjoy a movie musical. I really liked Rocket Man because it was a musical. It wasn't really so much a biopic, so I dug that. And that just, I feel like In the Heights is going to be. I feel like it's gonna give West Side. It feels like it's giving me West Side Story vibes, which is just kind of nostalgic in that end. I mean, not for the storyline, just more for just how it looks. On TV, I really enjoyed. I don't know how you'd exactly say the title, but #BlackAF, Kenya Barris's Netflix show, because it's kind of a strange little. It sort of is format agnostic, and it's representative of what I really like about current film and television and what streaming allows for us to do, and sort of the creative boundaries you can push. Like, doesn't have to fit into a half-an-hour time slot, doesn't have to fit into an hour time slot. And it's a comedy, it's a dramedy comedy. It's kind of hard to define, and I enjoyed that about it, and it's hysterical. So there's that as well. Yeah, that's where I'm at for now.
You know that In the Heights got pushed to next year, right? Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, they moved.
What about West Side Story?
It is coming.
West Side Story?
West Side Story's still coming out this year.
I'm still very excited about it.
I am too, but I was bummed that they pushed it.
Yeah, ditto.
Please, yeah, I am also bummed.
I did a rewatch of Newsroom recently because that remains one of the most perfect 3-season shows ever, and you guys know how much I love Sorkin, so it's like, Sorkin at his best on that show. And if you want to feel completely inept as a writer and as a reporter, you watch that show, and it's just like makes me feel things. So that's just did a rewatch of that. I'm showing someone Battlestar for the first time, and everyone knows how much I love Battlestar, and so that's really fun for me to get to watch somebody watch something that I love, that I know and understand really, and see them react to it. Like, just certain moments that everyone who's seen it will wait. It kind of like when Game of Thrones happened and all the book readers going into season 3 were like, oh, they're going to a wedding.
Yeah.
I told everyone after that, I was like, don't, you guys calm down, don't worry, wait for the next episode, because I was expecting Joffrey to be, sorry, spoilers, I was expecting Joffrey to be killed the next episode. So I'm like, well, surely they gotta balance this out a little bit. And I was like, don't worry guys, don't worry, it's gonna be okay. And then I was like, sorry, never mind, it'll be 18 months, see you later.
And I'm also reminding everyone that For All Mankind is absolutely incredible, and if you need something to make you feel a little bit better about vision in the world, that's definitely one that everyone should watch. It's fabulous, it's so well done. I cannot wait for season 2. Cannot wait. And of course, the thing that I am the most excited about hasn't moved yet this year, and that is Dune.
Oh yeah.
Dune is still sitting on its December 18th release date, and so of course that's the thing I'm the most excited about.
Yeah, because you could do post-production at home.
And I still believe maybe they're gonna push it, but that's my thought, but it'll probably stay in December.
I don't know where else they'd put Dune. I mean, December's a good time for it. They can't.
March, my birthday.
It's also that. I mean, they can't be thinking that Dune is a summer blockbuster or something.
No, I don't.
The first time around.
Yeah, but they know that doesn't work now, presumably.
We'll see what the reaction is once the trailer hits.
Yeah.
I think that'll
True.
be it.
Actually, general shout out for there's so much good stuff happening on streaming in general right now, but as a newcomer to the space, the various homebrewed series from Apple, the For All Mankind, the Morning Show, the C, I mean, all of them are between good and great, and if nothing else, they show a vision about where streaming and stuff, and where a newcomer in the streaming industry is like, no, there's still space for other kids to get into this game. So, definitely.
And Fraggle Rock is coming back too.
Oh, it's already back. It's back and socially distanced. No, seriously, the first episode that dropped last week, the screen's in quarters.
Yeah.
You said the thing.
There you go.
So for you just get back down. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and thank you for WonderCon at home. And let's go around real quick and just everyone, where can they find you on Twitter? Bob.
I'm on Twitter at @the_moviebob, and on that, the pinned tweet on that has my personal non-business related Twitter as well. You can follow both of them.
Alan.
You can read my reviews at filmfed.com, but on Twitter, I'm at mypal.
Thomas.
Twitter at TomDaveLA, THOMDAVELA. Also Flick66 Podcast, FLIX66 Podcast.
Cool. Alexandra.
I am at ALX August on all social platforms.
Marianne.
Aggressive Comics with an IX, and you can find me on Twitter at MabIsTink.
And I'm Bill Waters, and you can find me on most everywhere as Bill RW and the number 3. Everybody have a great rest of your evening, and stay safe, everybody.